Hello, guys. Welcome to the fourth episode of Survive Talks. I am here to interview the legendary CryingHorn. If you do not know who CryingHorn is, he has remade the Resident Evil 2 front hall in the beautiful Unreal 4 engine. Not only has he done this, he has remade or remastered, for better words, the front hall theme and secure place, which we will be listening to in the podcast later. Here's CryingHorn. Introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm CryingHorn. My real name is Andrius, full name is Andrius Balčiūnas. I'm from Lithuania, and I'm a CG artist. Actually, currently more of an art director, not a CG artist, less of a CG artist, I guess. So yeah, I work with mostly with games for the past 4 or 5 years. I've been working mostly on games. I started professionally to work with games from 2007. Back then I was really green, completely stupid, and I got lucky to get opportunity to work with actually some pretty cool titles back then. But obviously, because of the reasons that I was very green and not very skillful with computer graphics, I didn't do anything very huge on those games. Mostly that was some second part characters or some small assets and stuff like that. So I didn't work for very long. After that, I started to develop my own portfolio. I started to learn in depth more about CG in general, and I started to freelance. And basically, I started to get back to game industry more seriously, like I said, like about 4 years ago. And not long after that, I pretty much switched to become an art director. And so I mostly do more of a management of projects rather than CG itself, but occasionally I do that as well when needed, and this is where I am. So that's it for introduction, I guess.
First question is, when did you get into gaming, and when did you get into Resident Evil?
Well, that's a good question, because basically those two things happen together. Resident Evil 2 was the game that actually got me into gaming, because back before that I just used to play Super Mario and stuff like that, but that wasn't something that really got me into gaming. Resident Evil 2 was the first game that got me into gaming. It wasn't the game that got me into computer graphics, but it was the game that got me into the gaming. So that happened when I was going with my mother actually back then, and we were walking home or something like that, and I was 14 back then, by the way. I'm 32 now. And back then, we were walking with my mother home, and there was this game store or something, and not like game store, but the place where you can play games and stuff like that. So I went in, and they asked me, so what do you want to play? And I wasn't, I didn't know anything about games, so I said, just give me something horror-like, And they gave me Resident Evil 2, because that's actually the only game they had. Back then it was like 1999, so there was no Resident Evil 3 yet, and they didn't have Resident Evil 1 yet as well. So they had Resident Evil 2, and they gave me Leon, obviously the CD1. And boy, did I was blown away. I mean, it got me right from the first moment. Like when I saw the introduction where Leon is going in this police car with Claire, and it blows up by the truck, and they split up, and you just go with zombies everywhere around. It just got me. I mean, it really just blew me away, and I was so hooked. So from that day, I started to use those money that my mother gave for for day use to play Resident Evil 2 in that place. So I don't know, I spent like a lot of money to finish it, because first time I finished Resident Evil 2, it was in that game place, and after a year or so, I got my first computer finally, It had very weak graphics, but it could handle the Resident Evil 2 on PC because there was a port for PC. And boy, I was so happy, remember, because I couldn't believe that for now I can actually play this game for free and as much as I want. So I rate that game so much. I won't lie that I probably played this game for more than 100 times because after that, I never got PlayStation, but after that, I got PSP, and I managed to make, you can play on PSP, PlayStation 1 games, so I played on PC after that on PSP, and actually, occasionally I still play it on PS Vita now, actually. I do have PS
Same.
Vita, so I played it. Yeah, so as long as, pretty much from that time I can actually even count which year I probably didn't play it, because I play it like every year at least once, because after a while I just get to be, I miss it or something like that, and this is that from all the from all Resident Evil, this is the one that I played most of. Because basically it was the first. I can't say that this probably was the best, or maybe it was. I guess from all the Resident Evils, the one that I would objectively say that it's the best is the Resident Evil 1 remake.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's one polished one. It looks really great. But yeah, Resident Evil 2 left just a special mark in my heart, so I guess I love it most of all. So yeah, I guess we can go on for next question. Hello? Is everything okay? I think we disconnected or something.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Ah, shit. Here, hold on. Can you hear me?
Yep, now I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, this
Yeah.
is Mike. Did gaming inspire you to become a CG and lighting artist?
Yes, just it wasn't Resident Evil. Basically, I got interested in computer graphics after I saw for the first time Final Fantasy VIII intro. That was the game that actually got me question, how is this done? And I was really impressed visually back then. It was very artistically well-made thing. I consider it as a masterpiece. So when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, I want to figure out how do they do it, And this eventually led me to, to be interested in computer graphics. And in the beginning, when I started to learn about computer graphics, I wasn't like specifically interested in lighting or something. I was interested in everything, and I was searching for which thing would be a most interesting one. Actually, back then I was so ambitious. I was looking for, to be interested in everything and do everything. But then after a while, I realized that I just can't be good at all the fields. So I had to choose, and it so happened that lighting and rendering became my most interesting fields. So yeah, I started to specialize there, and from all the fields in CG, this is the one that I am mostly skilled at.
Where did you get inspired to learn how to make and compose music?
Yeah. So, well, it basically happened pretty much along with my interest in computer graphics, maybe like a year or two later. The difference was that I wasn't really I didn't look into composing of music very seriously. Before I was interested in computer graphics, there was this moment in my life where I was interested to become a DJ. But this dream never actually happened for many reasons. But I was always fascinated by sound, by music, by sound design in general. So this always stayed in me. And when I started to learn computer graphics a few years later, I got opportunity to try a software audio which called Reason from Propellerheads, and this was my first a digital audio station that I tried. And I never forced myself to learn it. I just naturally started to play with it, and eventually I just kind of learned to do basic stuff, and I was happy about it for a while. But eventually I just was interested more and more to see how far can I go. And my learning with composing was always natural. I never, like I said, I never forced myself to do it. Like, for example, in computer graphics, I look at it a little bit more serious. I take a lot of time, watch tutorials and stuff like that. For composing music, I never did that pretty much, or never did it very in depth. So I always considered my composing music like more of a hobby. Like, it's just that I've been doing that for more than 10 years. So I guess in that period of time, you just learn to do the basics. And these days, basically, I use this skill mostly for doing not so much of a music, but more of a sound design for my personal projects, and sometimes even for commercial projects. So yeah, but basically, yeah, I'm a self-taught in both in computer graphics and in music composing as well.
Oh wow! And if anybody does not know, you recreated the Silent Hill music, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's actually, well, basically that happened quite naturally. There is this forum on somewhere in some Silent Hill forum, fan forum or something, where people started to notice that Akira Yamaoka, who composed Silent Hill soundtrack, he used a lot of pre-sampled samples from many libraries. And what they did, they started to look and share which libraries he used for all the Silent Hill soundtracks. And they managed even to build this huge archive of all those samples. And they actually share it online. And, well, I, as a huge fan of Silent Hill soundtrack as well, I decided to download it. And I was so hooked. I mean, I was so amazed of how many actually samples that Akira Yamaoka used. And eventually I just thought, why the hell shouldn't I make something out of them? And in the beginning, I actually didn't thought of doing like Silent Hill, something for Silent Hill as a fan, but I was just curious to make something of my own from those samples. But I realized that those samples are so actually authentic to Silent Hill that it would be impossible to make it something authentic from them. So eventually I thought that why the hell not, I would just make a fan soundtrack for it, which would resemble the Silent Hill soundtrack feel, but it would be at the same time something different. And I did that. It took it took like 2 days or something. I actually spent like the whole night doing that. I was so hooked. I was so like actually excited and entertained by that fact that it was like a free gift that you get, And I thought, whoa, this is interesting. Let's do something out of it. So eventually, what happened is like 20 minutes long music cue with that morphs from something to something, So yeah.
And like I said, I would have a music comparison, which will be about 4 minutes. So I am going to play that right now.
Mm-hmm. Nope, I can't.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep, I
Okay,
can hear you.
there we go. No, sorry. But yeah, that music is absolutely beautiful. Did you take any inspiration from other Resident Evils while making this? Because when I,
No.
sorry, when I, when I first listened to it, I automatically thought of the Dark Side Chronicles.
Oh, Dark Side. No, I haven't even played it. Yeah. No, I can. Basically, I have a huge library of sounds, and I always was interested in orchestral type of music. So, not that I would only be interested in that kind of style, but I always believed that Resident Evil always fit for most fit for orchestral type of music. So, I always wanted to have more of orchestral and epic feel. I always imagined that if Resident Evil remake it would happen, should be like that. So I tried to, in both of those tracks, I tried to just kind of strictly stick with orchestral type of instruments, and especially for Save Room. It was supposed to be a test. I actually didn't intend to do anything like for publishing, but in the end, it turned out to be really well. I liked it, so I decided to actually share it. But basically, what happened is I got the sheets of that theme of the Save Room itself. I imported it into my DAW. And I started to play and see what kind of, basically in the beginning I even tried to use some other instrument instead of piano, but it didn't kind of turn out to be very well, so I stayed with the piano. I just started to alter the keys so it would sound a little bit more natural and more relaxed. And basically what got me into the part that I decided to share it is the part where I use some horrors. I found it to be like they turned out to be very well, and I thought that, oh yeah, that's exactly the direction that I like. And at that point, I was actually so excited about it. I for a glimpse of a moment even thought of doing that room in CG as well. But I decided that okay, this is it. That's it. I should stop. So I think I'm not remember exactly. Did I do this? Did I did this before E3 or after E3? Because I did Main Hall in January, and after that, I strictly stopped doing anything related with Resident Evil, mainly because I was absolutely expecting some news in E3 to happen regarding the Resident Evil 2 remake. So I didn't see any point of doing something, because I was honestly expecting the Capcom to show something new. So
yeah.
So yeah, but that didn't happen. so and that's it. Now I'm actually thinking of maybe doing something else just to tease, Capcom, I don't know, or Resident Evil 2 fans to just, for something else. Basically, I got a lot of messages and emails from Resident Evil fans, asking me, would you be interested, to do, or are you willing to do, or whatever, or you want to join to do something related with Resident Evil? And I always kind of didn't saw any point of that, because, well, since Capcom already, told that they are going to do Resident Evil 2 remake, I don't see the point of doing Resident Evil any remake on our end from the fan base, especially considering the fact that I'm personally in the game industry. I know how difficult it is to do a game in general. So, I always thought, what can I do? What can I do, for example, for all of us Resident Evil fans to be excited about? And I have two ideas that I'm still thinking to do them. And one of them is actually to make sort of a museum of Resident Evil 2 police station. So it would be like main hall. It's just that it's going to contain more of areas that you can walk around and see it, or experience them in VR, because I'm actually still planning to do that regarding the police station main hall. I just need to optimize it, but I actually already saw it because I do have HTC Vive, so I already saw it in VR. It looks amazing. It was it is the closest that you can actually feel the scale and everything without actually building this police station. So I thought maybe that would be great, because if Capcom is going to release Resident Evil 2 Remake, then I don't think they're going to make it VR supportive, or I don't know what kind of game they're going to release. So I thought that from a fan perspective, whoever contributes to making something for fan art, it would be possible to do that. So that's one idea. And the second idea is a little bit more ambitious and maybe realistic. I don't know, but I want to do an actually next-gen, really good-looking zombie. And I want to make it it look so good that it would become popular among Resident Evil fans so much that Capcom would actually consider to put it as one of the Resident Evil zombies in the remake. I mean, that's very ambitious, but that would be like one of the ideas that I had, and that would be great, because I, as a CG artist, I specialize in character creation. So you probably saw that leaked image from Capcom where they presented their technology that they use for photogrammetry.
Yeah, the faces of the zombies that they didn't use in RE7. Yeah, I've seen that before.
Yes. So and there was this one zombie that everybody believes that it might go into Resident Evil 2 Remake, and it looks really cool. So yeah, I had this idea that I can actually do that as well, not using photogrammetry, but I can, we can actually pull off this kind of quality without photogrammetry as well. And it would be great because, Resident Evil in general, I don't know what kind of remake they're going to make. I really don't. But, for example, if I would make it, it would go into the direction being more realistic rather than more stylized. Like, for example, there's this game Order 8086 or I don't remember now.
Order 80 or 1886.
Yeah. So basically, the level of quality, I would like Resident Evil to be to look like that. I mean, just with its own horror style, but the level of quality of characters and environment should be none less than that. And it's totally possible for many reasons, and one of them is because Resident Evil 2 is very claustrophobic game. It has very close spaces, and it's technically very thankful for putting a lot of details into it. It's so good game for pushing the graphics so far and so good. I mean, really, it could be. I don't know if Capcom is going to make it, but it could look really, really good, like absolutely amazing. It could look a lot better than Resident Evil 1 Remake, considering the fact that it wouldn't have pre-rendered backgrounds, but it would be all full real-time. It's just that I don't know if Capcom is going to do that. I don't know how much are they putting, effort, money, and everything else into it.
And but the picture that you were talking about, I did put it up into the live stream. That's the zombie that he was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
I'm actually not watching now the YouTube, but yeah. So I know. The idea is this: that when you have poly budget for the whole game, I think that for a character, you can actually have, in Resident Evil 2 Remake, like I mentioned, it would be claustrophobic. It is a claustrophobic game, so you can have like hundreds polygons, 100,000, I mean, polygons for one character easily for Resident Evil. And that's actually a lot. You can actually pull off very high quality for that. So, considering the fact that in one scene you see like main character and some few zombies, you have very, very good budgets. So, yeah, I don't know. I just really hope that Capcom is going to push everything they can on their end. I mean, they really did a good job on Resident Evil 1 remake when you compare it with the original Resident Evil. So I really hope that they are going to do respectfully the same with this remake.
Yeah, and speaking of which, since that whole remake, what games have you worked on before and after it?
Well, a lot of games are under NDA, so I can't talk about them. But few recent games that I easily can talk about are when I joined the Fox 3D Studios, where I work now, is Natural Selection 2 and Subnautica. So those are two games that I can tell that I've been working on. For Natural Selection 2, I've been mainly working on promotional material and did some texturing for a few characters. And for Subnautica, I did a little bit more. I did the trailer, and I was responsible for all the cinematic rendering, animation, composing, and stuff like that. So yeah, that's two games that I can say now that I've been working. The rest, sorry guys, it's under NDA. I can't talk anything about yet.
That's all right. But Natural Selection 2 and Subnautica. So, I mean, how much is Natural Selection 2 on Steam? Because I've heard of that game and I think I have it on my wish list. Maybe I do.
I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I haven't been watching, because it's actually quite old. So I don't think they're developing it right now. They're still working on Subnautica. They're still polishing it. I think they're still doing add-ons. So I'm not sure. They're coming from this they're coming from the same game developer. It's Unknown Worlds. Very great guys. So I don't know what their plans for the future. I just Natural Selection 2. I played it a few times, very long time ago, like when I was working on it. So yeah, and I think the price definitely has changed from that time. In any case, back then, Unknown Worlds obviously gave me the key for this game for free, so I didn't even pay for it. All right.
But all right. So, what inspired you to do a remake of the front hall in the Unreal 4 engine and also redo the music, because all the effort that you put into it made an actual beautiful masterpiece?
Oh, thanks. Thanks. Yeah, basically, I got interested in Unreal Engine 4 in general back then. I've been working with it. I mean, I started to work with it like almost 2 years ago. And after a while, when I started to learn it, after a while, I saw its potential. I got how it's working. I did few samples that were working. I did one where you can see Alien Queen. It's actually a great model. Yeah. So I did that. Yeah, and it got actually quite successful on YouTube. For my surprise, it got even more than 500,000 views. I didn't expect that. But after that, I was like playing Resident Evil 2, like I do every year, like I told you, and I thought of this idea that main hall of Resident Evil 2 is actually very iconic. I mean, it's one of the most iconic scenes from the whole game. And the other reason was that when I saw it, I actually had a different idea. I wanted to remake the main hall of Resident Evil 1, the mansion. But for my surprise, this was already done. And you probably saw it. There's this awesome artist. I don't remember his name right now, but he actually did very absolutely amazing job on remaking Resident Evil 1, the mansion from Resident Evil 1, also on Unreal Engine 4, where you can walk around. So I saw it, and I was really blown away. Like, I didn't expect Unreal Engine 4 to pull that kind of quality at that time. I was really impressed, and I thought, oh my god, this is amazing. I mean, I already wanted to do that. I had this idea, but somebody did it before me. And then I thought, God, this is great, because I can now actually do something else, and that else can be Resident Evil 2 main hall. And this is where my idea started to become how it became into the project, you know. So in the beginning, I actually downloaded, you can actually download some, grab models from games, and I found main hall, but it was from an old game. I don't know, this is from a shooter on GameCube, where you can actually just automatically walk and shoot zombies. I don't remember how. Maybe Chronicles. Maybe I don't know.
I believe you're talking about BOW Quinn. Is that Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Residents say BOW Quinn.
Yes. So somebody actually extracted because those two games. I mean, I think there are several of them, like two maybe. I know that they have this pool that you can extract everything from them, like animations, models, everything. And there is this famous guy. You probably heard about it, Road Lima, I think, or how is his name, who actually recreated the whole Resident Evil 2 using those assets. He actually coded everything and made pretty much the whole functional Resident Evil 2 using all those assets and his own code. So I think his name is Road Lima or something like that. So basically, a lot of assets from that game are shared online. So I downloaded it, and I made a quick preview in my Unreal Engine 4 just by importing all the models and adding lighting. And it was pretty much just models and textures and all the lighting. And I saw it, and it already looked better than the original models because of how Unreal Engine 4 can pull off the quality in shaders and lighting in general. And so I decided that, all right, that's cool, but how about doing something a little bit more detailed, more good-looking and stuff like that. So you know, I started to brainstorm how much can I put actually of you know, time for this whole project and stuff like that. And for a period of time, I actually doubted whether I want to do it, because I knew I could do it. It's just that it would take a lot of time, and I didn't see any point, you know, doing it. But after a while, there was this recent stupid game from Capcom, which called like Umbrella Corps.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I knew which one you were talking about. So
I saw this game. Yeah, I saw this game, and actually, particularly, I saw this one video where some guy is actually comparing original Resident Evil 2 main hall with this main hall that is included into the corpse, which is broken, all demolished, and stuff like that. And I saw it, and I thought, oh my god, this is actually pretty cool. At least one thing good about this game. and at that moment, I decided to get this game. I got it. I actually forcefully played to that part where you can actually see this police department main hall, which is destructed. It looks all demolished. You can see the roof opened, I guess, after explosion or whatever, or maybe it's a simulation. I don't know. It doesn't have a storyline, so it's just random stuff. But in general, somebody pretty much made a decent job on it. And I managed to capture all that thing because it's possible to do with various tools. I managed to capture that main hall from that game, and I imported it into the 3ds Max. And using those proportions, I started to rebuild all the main hall from my perspective. So in the end, I had my own models mixed a little bit with something from that Umbrella Corps version. But in general, I restored it to the point where it would look as close as possible to what we saw in Resident Evil 2. And after that, I started to add my own assets, like all the mess that you can see on the tables, computer,
cigarettes, the raccoon cigarettes, and the newspaper.
Yes. So that everything in that part was done on my end, and basically the whole texturing obviously was absolutely done either from scratch or using something from that, but mainly, yeah. Everything was redone because at that time I was also, like I said, it basically was part of learning Unreal Engine 4. So I was very interested in so-called procedural shaders, and I wanted to do this thing that where you can actually get to any object as close as possible and see it still in details. So it uses like mixture of textures. Like you have one texture that is basically looks good from when you are further away from the object, and the one which gives this micro details when you are looking at it from very close. Like for example, if you look at doors from very close angle, you can still see small micro details of wood. So I did pretty much on all the objects there. And and the other thing is that obviously the poly count was very much increased on pretty much all the objects to make it look smooth. And the rest was pretty much the mood that I was looking for. So I wanted it to make to be more darker than the original Resident Evil 2, because in Resident Evil 2 or in an original game, it's pretty much well lit. It's very nice, well lit environment. What I wanted to do it to make it a little bit darker, like more moody, and it has this. Some people complain about it, but I don't care. It has this a little bit greenish tint of color that I wanted to put. It kind of gave this a little bit more like modern cinematic look. So yeah, and basically, yeah, in the beginning, regarding the soundtrack, I thought that it would be, I could just use original track from the Resident Evil 2 soundtrack. But yeah, I got sheets from the main hall because it's really easy to get. I imported it into my digital station pretty much with same like with Safe Room, and I started to play around with instruments. And again, I was really happy about how it turned out, and I decided to polish it further until you hear what you hear now in this demo. And so the difference from don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Resident Evil 2 soundtrack. I mean, I really love it. It's one of those soundtracks where I can actually listen to when I'm depressed, and it makes me feel better, I guess because it evokes this nostalgia feeling in me. And it's all great. But at the same time, if I would, for example, expect to see a Resident Evil 2 remake, I always wanted to see it darker, darker, more scary and stuff like that. So when I was imagining before doing something with Resident Evil 2, this soundtrack, I thought that I would imagine it to be more minimalistic and and more it's like darker, So I had those boosted up bass lines, so it would have this impact feel, and also the horrors that is going in the background as well. And yeah, it turned out pretty much like that. Actually, at this point, I'm honestly very interested to hear what Capcom is going to do with the soundtrack on their end, if they're going to do with Resident Evil 2, because like most of the fans, I probably am among those who are starting to a little bit worry and doubt that they're going to make it at all.
Yeah, yeah. The whole community has made videos based on Resident Evil 2 not showing at not only at E3, but now we're just getting worried because we're getting nothing but bad news. So it's like, but I do remember.
I'm sorry, but I just want to finish one thing. Yeah, Capcom has made a lot of bad decisions. That's probably everybody would agree about it. But I think Resident Evil 2, that's my opinion, I don't know. I think that one of the reasons that Resident Evil 2 got a little bit postponed is because Resident Evil 7 success. I mean, it got really... you can consider Resident Evil 7 as a sort of successful title. And I've played it, and I have to agree it's not that bad as I expected it to be. And I'm among those people who believes that everything got wrong with Resident Evil from the Resident Evil 4.
Yep, I'm one of those people too.
Yeah. So I think that Resident Evil 7 is the first game from Capcom that actually started to go somewhat in the right direction. I mean, it's at least better than Resident Evil 4, 5, or 6, or whatever, or those Chronicles, or I don't know. I would still prefer something like Resident Evil 2 or 3, or 1 remake, or 0 even, but, you know, I'm happy that at least they did something somehow good or going into the right direction with Resident Evil 7. And I think that after they got this positive feedback from community of gamers about Resident Evil 7, I think they are now either thinking of doing Resident Evil 2 in that direction, let's hope not, or maybe they're already doing Resident Evil 8 because, you know, they're thinking about money and profit and stuff like that. I don't know, but I think that Resident Evil 7 might be one of, its sort of success might be one of the reasons why Resident Evil 2 got a little bit forgotten.
Yeah, and I mean, have you tried Resident Evil 7 in VR?
No, I haven't, because I played it on PC. I think it's only available on VR on PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
Or maybe, I don't know, but no, I haven't tried it on VR.
I will have to say, if you ever get a chance, try it, because that's basically the definitive edition of Resident Evil 7. That's how you, truly experience it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But
I've already noticed from Resident. I mean, that's my, I have this sickness as a person who is working with computer graphics to notice all the problems, technical problems in the game. But first, when I tried the demo, I saw that the texture quality was very bad. Like in Resident Evil 7, it was completely horribly bad. I couldn't believe that somebody could approve that kind of quality. But then I found out that it's actually was intentional, because they were intended to optimize it for VR experience. So that made sense. I don't know where I was going with this, but I just said it.
But yeah, and the thing is that I still do remember the first experience that I've had with your version of the remake. It was when Residents of Evil, who is in the chat, when he made the video about it, I was like, wait, there's actually a fan remake of the main hall that I can play. And I stopped it, I went to his description, and I downloaded it, and I was like, I'll watch the video later, I'm just going to try to experience this for myself. And I put my headphones on, I sat at the couch, and I watched all the cutscenes, and the first thing I did was like go to the nearest door, and then all I hear is like scratching, and I'm like, and just zombie sounds. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of creeped the fuck out. So it's like, and just hearing the music, it's like, God, what? It brought me back to like when I was, let's see, I think I was 4 when I first played Resident Evil 2. It was either 4 or 5, and I was like, God damn it, this brings me back to me being 4 or 5. Is like, I was so impressed with the game and the music, and then I watched the Residents of Evil video, and I was like, it did bring a tear to my eye, just seeing it in all of its beautiful glory. So yeah, the speaking of which, the next question is, how do you feel about the positive feedback from the community, and especially from a big YouTuber like Residents of Evil?
So that's what I wanted to interrupt you about. Yeah, that was actually. Honestly, I didn't expect that Resident Evil fan base is so big. It really surprised me. And the feedback was nothing but positive, really. And I'm actually so thankful to everybody who are so excited. I realized how many people are actually so anticipated about Resident Evil 2, and yeah, I before the JJ who did this gameplay on Residents of Evil, he asked me actually before doing it whether he can do it. I said, of course, do whatever you want. And after a few days, he sent me a link telling me that here you go if you want to watch it. And I didn't watch it live, but I watched it already when it was uploaded. And that was morning in my time, and I was about to eat breakfast. So, when I saw that link, I said to myself, like, okay, this is going to be interesting. And I went to make my breakfast, and I can honestly tell you that was the best breakfast in my whole life. Literally, because he was pretty much giving me compliments like every 5 seconds or so. So, I felt so flattered, like, oh, stop it, something like that. And yeah, but the other thing that really left me very happy, I don't know, is and it's not only Residents of Evil. Actually, later I watched other videos, people playing it, and what I was really happy about, I guess this is what kind of developers feel, they're mostly satisfied about, is when people notice the small details. If I knew that people would really dig for these kind of small details, I would have put a lot more of them. I had really a lot of plans of doing a lot more trivias in this demo. I just didn't thought that it's going to get so much of attention. I actually had planned back then. I wanted to add like maybe, I don't know, some liquor somewhere jumping very quickly. That would probably could end the demo in a nice jump scare way. I don't know. It just, in the end, I didn't. Back then I didn't thought it's going to get so much of attention, so I didn't see any point in doing that. But after watching those demos like JJ did, and he's like came to all that mess on the table, and he's pretty much like reading the headlines on the newspaper. By the way, that headline on the newspaper is actually I took it from the movie of Resident Evil, the first one.
Oh, wow.
With Mila Jovovich. Yeah, in the end, there is this scene at the very, very end when she comes out of this laboratory or something, and she sees that the whole city is already destructed. She takes the shotgun, reloads it, and the camera starts to go off, showing the whole city destructed. This is the last scene with Marilyn Manson soundtrack playing in the background, and at one moment when camera shifts and shows her going into this city and watching everything around, you can see this newspaper headline where you can actually read it very well, like Dead Walking or something like that. And this newspaper was actually a prop made for this, and later it was actually sold in eBay or something like that. And there's an actual photo of it. So I took that photo, made a texture of it, and put this into this game. So it's sort of indirect trivia, but it's not so, not so much of not related with Resident Evil. It actually has a link, it's just not a direct one. So yeah, basically, all those cigars are actually, it has a name Raccoon, obviously I invented it, books and stuff like that. It's just something random as well. But yeah, if I would knew that people would notice those details, I would have put a lot more of them, you know. And this is something for me to have in mind as a somebody who's in game industry, you know. I really honestly, I guess this is because I'm not kind of like that. I usually, you know, like go very fast through all the environments. I mean, I notice them, but I notice them and I watch them in general, you know. But I tend not to, you know, like go into watching every small detail, and you know, that's shame on me. Like I was so impressed that people actually do that, and you know, that got me really inspired, you know, and I felt in some point like rewarded that, you know, I put like those details into this and somebody actually noticed it. So I guess this part exactly that I'm talking about is the most rewarding part of everything related to this Resident Evil demo. So yeah.
Damn. But in this question, how do you want Remake 2 to be made? And we're talking camera angles, direction to go, story, music, and all that.
Yeah, so, well, obviously, like most of Resident Evil fans, I would like it to be with fixed cameras, like, you know, not first person, not even third person, but like fixed cameras. This is something I would prefer, you know, because, well, no matter what you talk, I think that Resident Evil 2 Remake is still going to be mainly, you know, aimed for Resident Evil fans. I don't think it's going to be aimed for somebody who never played Resident Evil. I think it's going to play on nostalgia, or should play on nostalgia cards. So I think it should be like with fixed cameras. It's just that it doesn't have to be like strictly fixed cameras. It could be something like, I don't know, maybe like Dino Crisis had, or let's say maybe a better example, this game, I forgot how it's called. Yeah, Until Dawn, if you have ever played it. Yeah, I think the camera there worked out very well. At some points it's like static, at some points it's a little bit moves, but all in all it shows character from a little bit further, so it kind of gives the cinematic feel. And I think Resident Evil 2, at that time, when I played it for the first time, that was one of the main reasons why I really liked it, because it gave this sort of a cinematic feel, and I think that Resident Evil 2 could really work out very well from that perspective as well. On the same note, I can tell that it's not really so difficult to make cameras switchable. So I think that it wouldn't be really a problem to make, you know, be able to switch camera actually to make it look like, I don't know, third person, like for Resident Evil 4 maybe, or maybe make something like hybrids, like when you're walking around, you see from the fixed camera's point of view, but when you're actually aiming, you could actually switch to first person or wherever. I don't know. I think there isn't really a huge problem making cameras switchable, but if I would have to choose, I would choose it to be, you know, with respect to original Resident Evil 2, being cameras fixed or slightly moving or all around. So that's regarding the camera movement. I will leave the art directing for the last part. Next is music. So yeah, I guess what I did for fan music shows what kind of music I would expect from Resident Evil 2. So, you know, if you compare Resident Evil 1 Remake soundtrack to original Resident Evil 1, I think they did really good work, because that's exactly the path they went. They took something that in 1996 was sort of considered to be probably scary, or maybe on their tight budget made, and they actually kept the same theme of most of the music, but they add this scary, creepy, dark feel to everything. So, and I think it really worked out very well. So, you know, I think they should go with the same direction for Resident Evil 2, or at least I would hope so. That's, like I said, this is something I'm very keen to see what Capcom is going to do, you know, because it's just interesting. And yeah, and for art direction, I don't know. Basically, you know, when I first saw Last of Us, I always thought that Resident Evil 2 supposed to be what Last of Us was, but it never did, you know. I think Last of Us was the game that I expected Resident Evil to be. And what I exactly mean here is basically the art direction, that it has a lot of serious drama in it. Resident Evil basically with serious became an action flick, and I don't think that it was a good direction to go. I don't know why Capcom chose it, but well, they did. Even for the last series of movie, which called Resident Evil Vendetta, if I recall it correctly. Was it called Vendetta?
Yes, Vendetta.
Yeah. So yeah, you can obviously. It starts, by the way, this movie Vendetta. It starts, by the way, very well because they go into this mansion and you have this scary feel, but then it goes into action flick again, like they usually do, and it sort of gets boring. And you know what I always missed in Resident Evil is to see more of the drama in it. I mean, like serious drama, like, you know. If I would took a direction of Resident Evil 2, it would be much, much, much more serious in every way. And I think it would be so serious that it would fall off of all the theme of Resident Evil in general. I mean, like, those, you know, cheesy lines that they are now dropping, I think they are outdated. They worked well when we were kids, because that thing could have, you know, it was easy to sell to us. But now, when we are grown-ups and the standards are way higher, I don't think they can pull it off with that kind of cheesy thing.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, okay, I can give you maybe an example of what do I mean. Like, for example, I would like to have this sort of an experience where you can, let's say, meet a mother with her daughter lost somewhere, maybe in that police station, right? And they're scared and they don't know what happens and stuff like that. And you try to kind of help them, but then things gets really depressed, like maybe a mother or daughter gets to be infected, and daughter, let's for example, get to be infected, and then she starts to eat her mother, and mother is screaming because she doesn't want to kill and accept the fact that her daughter is now a zombie, and so she, you know, just kind of lets her eat her and stuff like that, and you see it's dramatic, and that mother also becomes a zombie and comes for you, and now you have to kill her, so that's sort of a hard decision. Maybe something like, you know, Walking Dead game from Telltale Games. They had a lot of, they had a lot of these serious, hard decisions to make, you know, in the game. So that kind of drama in this game is missing really, really much. I mean, like, I would really love this to be a lot more serious than Resident Evil 2 was, because Resident Evil 2 is pretty much like easy flick, you know. It's all the characters are dropping really cheesy lines, and and yeah, I think for these days it's a little bit outdated. It could be a lot more serious. I would like it to see a lot more serious. Like, I would like it to be like shockingly depressing and dark, you know. That would be my thing. I would like it to go in that direction, you know, like extremely depressive. Like, that would be my thing. So yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen. But yeah, obviously Capcom is going to make it a lot more serious than it was. Same again, like if you take Resident Evil 1 remake and compare it with Resident Evil original. Yeah, they actually did a lot better job with voice casting and everything. Still, it could have been a lot better, but yeah, whatever. For 2002 or whatever Resident Evil 1 remake was made, it was really good back then. So yeah, for 2017 or 18, whatever is going to happen, yeah, I think it could be a lot more dramatic and a lot more darker. After all, Resident Evil 2 remake is made for us, for everybody who is now over 30, probably, most at least, you know. So yeah, they can't expect us to sell the cheesy lines and cheesy storylines. So they have to make it serious. At least let's hope so. I don't know.
But the last question is which you kind of did already answer, is are you going to do any other rooms like the Red Room Save Room or the Stars Office?
I don't know. I'm planning to play Resident Evil 2 once again, and maybe if I can get inspired by something. I had this idea. JJ actually contacted me like a few weeks ago, and he asked me. I guess there was this rumor that I was doing a room of Stars members.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
I don't know who actually started this rumor, because I never had even idea of doing that, and I said no, I don't. I'm not working on anything like that. But I told him that if I would do something related with Resident Evil 2 and it would be like similar to Main Hall, it would be the outside of Resident Evil. The place where you that you enter before going into the Main Hall. So the outside of
the garden and the
so I found that place always fascinating, and I thought that it would be great to remake that part as well. Actually, I even wanted to make that part together with the Main Hall. It's just that it turned out to be a lot of work, The other option I had, it would be probably interesting to make the library of the Resident Evil. It's an interesting place, and you can actually, make it look interesting. And even the soundtrack at that place is something interesting that could work out, but I don't know. I guess I'll have to think about it and see if it hits me. For now we have Main Hall, which is do whatever you want, but I think it's the most iconic place of the Resident Evil 2. I'm not sure what else. From everything else that goes is probably Umbrella Laboratory, which I don't think is so much fascinating. I always like the part of Resident Evil in general. That's expensive, old-looking stuff, like especially Resident Evil 1 captures that very well, that you have expensive old mansion where dark stuff happens, so I don't know. As far as I remember, Resident Evil 2 police station, like conceptually was supposed, or it was before police station, it was like a museum or something like that, so it has this gothic feel to it, and the Main Hall shows that very well, because nobody would build police station looking like that in general, so they had to come with the idea, how can we pull off to make something like that to be a police department? So in the end they make this sort of a backstory that it used to be a museum or something.
Yeah.
So
we we did talk about that last podcast where that idea of the daughter eating the mother, I kind of had that idea with Resident Evil 3 with the Dario, the guy that locks himself in the thing, where in the remake he will actually follow you, and once he goes outside he sees his dead daughter and she starts eating him, and I always thought that would be an amazing thing, so that he wouldn't just be killed off screen and I just there are two questions from other people, and it is would you ever consider making a Resident Evil fan game, like recreating Resident Evil 1.5 in your own image, or actually just a standalone game, like a game from your ideas and everything?
Well, I would be interested if Capcom would offer that. Otherwise, I don't think it's worth to do it, mainly because I'm very sure that if you're going to make it something serious, Capcom is going to ban it, which is obviously, what's going to happen. So, all in all, I would definitely love to, and I'm planning to do that, to work on something very directly inspired by Resident Evil. I would like to make, and I'm actually doing and researching towards that idea, Actually, I can spoil a little bit of that. I had the idea of making my own horror game, which would happen respectively in a very expensive horror type of mansion. The difference is that it wouldn't have any zombies, it would have ghosts. Yeah, that was always my dream. You know the game called Fatal Frame?
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, I was always fascinated by horror type of ghosts, like Grudge, Ring, and stuff like that. So something like that mixed a little bit with demonic, creatures, and maybe like Conjuring or all the famous. Recently I saw this movie which is called Lights Out, and I was so, it really, I got so inspired by that movie. I think it's so underrated, and. So yeah, that type of horror mixed just in a place where you have this mansion and you're wandering everywhere around, and you have this orchestral soundtrack. This is the kind of basis of what I would like to do. Just everything else still, have to be, I have to think it all over. And yeah, respectively, it could be also as well from the third person, because it could really be a sort of very obviously inspired by Resident Evil. I think that most of Resident Evil fans would be, excited about. And besides that, in all, I think that would be the absolutely best contribution for me to do as a gamer who has been, playing mostly games like Resident Evil and stuff like that. I mean, like, that game really left a lot of good memories in my heart. So yeah, I can use that inspiration for sure. So yeah, all in all, obviously I understand that as a single person I can't do the whole game. I know how game industry works, and yeah, to build the whole game like that, it would be a very, very difficult. So I would need a lot more people, and I don't know how these days budget thing is working. Some people got very successful on Kickstarter. I think Kickstarter is now not so much good place to start games. There are many other places where you can do that. And so for the first thing that I would probably like to do is to make just a short demo, pushing everything you can in that demo to show that what can be done, and see where it's going from that point, just release it, like saying like with this main hall, is just you make something short, you show the conception, people are not stupid, they see it, and then you see what kind of feedback they get, and from that point you see where you can go further, So just like with the main hall, for example, of this Resident Evil 2, I would probably do same with doing a game. What I would like to do is most of people, especially fans, they always think about doing the whole game, and they don't realize how difficult, how complicated it's that. So they end up doing nothing, or they do a crappy game, in general. My idea is to make a very short, even like few, areas type of game that shows kind of the conception of the game itself. And if you get the positive feedback, then you see where you can go, further from that point. So this is where I go. This is where I would like to go, But to answer probably again to the question whether I would like to do a Resident Evil fan game, yeah, that would be great, except the part that I said, I'm absolutely sure that it would just, get to be banned by by Capcom, in general, because,
yeah, they're really anal about that.
Yeah, but yeah, I understand them. It makes sense. So everybody knows, I guess, about the guys who attempted to do Resident Evil 2 remake.
Invader Studios.
Yeah. So in the end, just Capcom asked them very nicely not to do it by inviting them to Capcom and showing something, I guess, regarding to Resident Evil 2 remake. So I'm pretty sure that wherever would happen more serious regarding something fan-made and related with Resident Evil would end up just like with them, Capcom would contact you and ask you to, shut it down. So yeah, it would be a lot of work for nothing.
And
I guess that's
sorry.
supposed to be an answer for this question.
Yeah. And the last question, which is, will you be remastering any song? Because I know people love your music, and I know let's see, my favorites were Free from Fear, which is the Resident Evil 3 save room. And as you said before, the library theme and the Marshalling Yard Part 1. I absolutely love those. And
yeah. Yeah, probably, yeah, I will, because I will see. I need to listen one more time a lot of all the soundtracks to see where I could get the inspiration. Actually, there was this one track that I almost got to go with making my own version. It was from Resident Evil 3. I'm not sure the name. I don't remember the name of it, but it's where you actually when you are in the city and it starts to play, like there is this voice of a. Let's see. I think it was called like "There is no hope" or something like that. No hope for humanity or something. There was this word "hope," I think, in this song. So when I played Resident Evil 3, I heard it and I thought, man.
Is it The City Without Hope?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, I heard it, and it doesn't start to play instantly. I think when you enter the city, it's the beginning of a game. You don't hear any music at all. It's just you hear the ambience of zombies moaning and zombies walking and stuff like that. Then you enter this bar or something, and you meet this guy,
Brad. Yeah.
Brad. Yeah, and he says that, oh my god, he's coming for us, and then he leaves, and you unlock the door, and you come again to this area which you already passed like a few minutes ago, and then this song starts to play, which is called, like you said, City of No Hope or something like that. So when I heard it, and it's a very nice moment when it starts to play, and I really enjoyed it. So I thought, man, this is actually sad. It sounds really sad and so amazing. I really like it. I want to remake that. So I had this moment for a while. The same goes for, again, I don't know the name of the song, but at the very end when you see Raccoon City destroyed, when all those bombs come and you just hear this sort of sad female horror and everything just gets, to be blown away. It's one of the best tracks in Resident Evil 3 and probably in Resident Evil in general. It's just nothing to remake there because it's already perfect. But yeah, those two would be the example of how I always wanted to, these are the best parts in terms of audio experience from the Resident Evil in general. So yeah, that's it, I guess. I don't know. I will play Resident Evil 2, I guess, in a while or so, and if something gets... one of the songs I'm actually thinking to remake is Ada Theme. Yes, I think it's actually cool.
The Ada Theme?
Yeah, Ada Theme, just from Resident Evil 2. Or, The Last Kiss, I think, is also pretty dramatic and very awesome. It's from the B scenario where Leon has to kisses that Ada and then she dies or whatever. But it's very simple, but it's actually very cool. It could be actually, I think it's just 2 notes or something, but for that particular moment, it actually works out very well. So maybe something like that, just with a different instrument, with different mood, would actually be very interesting. I don't know.
But yeah, I guess that's it for the interview. I really do want to thank CryingHorn, as he is the first person I have interviewed, and not only that, he has made me and a lot of the Resident Evil community happy, and made a lot of us actually look forward to what Remake 2 with his fan project actually will kind of look like. And we kind of, set the standards as one dude has done this. and with
Yeah.
with an actual company, what they can actually do with their resources. But please subscribe to his YouTube channel and like his Facebook. I do have the links to the YouTube page, and I'm going to post the links to the comment section of the Podomatic account. CryingHorn, is there a game that you do want to promote at all?
Well, no, nothing that I could have promoted. Like I said, most of the stuff that I'm working now is under NDA. I would like, and probably people that I'm working with would be very happy, but at the same time, they might be very sad about that, so I can't do that. However, I want to thank you for inviting me into this podcast. It's actually my first podcast related with games in general, so thank you for inviting me. Once again, I want to thank not only you, but in general all the Resident Evil fans for such a positive feedback for what I did with Resident Evil Main Hall. I'm so happy that there are so much people anticipating for Resident Evil 2. Let's hope Capcom is not going to screw it like it always does. And yeah, that's for you, Capcom. I hope you hear it. Yeah, so thank you. That's it. I don't know what else to say.
And you're absolutely welcome. I actually love this interview, and you know, I just I do think that this is pretty awesome. You know, talking to somebody that has put so much work and dedication for, you know, something that you didn't even think was going to be big, and then turned out it started becoming big, and actually, like, people started noticing everything, like small details, for, you know, the wood, the clutter and everything else. And yeah, I mean, I absolutely do love this interview.
Yeah, thank you so much.
But
cheers.
That's it for the fourth episode of Survive Talks. You can download the podcast on Podomatic or iTunes, or if you are listening to this by podcast, you can watch it on YouTube. I have just opened up an apparel store, so links will be in the description. Thank you all for watching. Bye.